we all go through life. We all have gone through things that has made us codependent or dependent on something, and we find value in places, things, and people. Today, we are going to be talking about safe places, things, and people. Okay. So, if you don't already know this, I have moved out of the very first house or apartment that I moved into, away from the house that I was S8 in, and then I am now, this is my second place that I've moved to from the very first place. So, I was going through a little bit of grieving, of course, because as a victim, a survivor, somebody who has faced trauma, it's really hard to let go of things, and some more than other, but for me, of course, I find it very hard to let go of things. So I wanted to get on here and talk to you about why that is and what other things I want to share with you about that, and yeah, things that I've learned along the way about my trauma and why I do this or why people do this. And I think that a lot of you can probably relate because we all go through life. We all have gone through things that has made us, you know, codependent or dependent on something, and we find value in places, things, and people. So I'm going to start off first with places, okay? Since this is, the start of this was because I moved to my new place. So the very first apartment that I moved into, um, it was the very first place out of the house that I was S8 in, which is my parents' house. And so moving into this place that was my very first, like, I never did any like college dorms or anything. So this place was, everything to me. It meant that I didn't have to relive the experiences or go to a certain place in the house and then feel uneasy, have a thought of like, oh, this happened here, or oh, I feel nervous or anxious about this area. Like, there was none of that. And I didn't feel like, oh, I didn't want to come home, I didn't want to come to here. It felt really nice to just be at ease and be at peace with the place that I was at. So the very first place that I moved into, it provided a lot of that safety for me, because the very first house in the house that I grew up in, um, where I was S8 in, did not do that for me, of course. So it was really hard. And that was one of the reasons why my parents, as you know, I am Hmong, and my parents are still pretty traditional, where they don't let, their daughters move out of the house unless they are married. And I only got to move out because of what happened to me. And I said, I can't stay in this house where it happened to me. And I can't always just, feel uncomfortable, feel sad, feel anxious. Like, it's depressing for me. So that was one of the main reasons why my parents let me move out of my parents' house. Other than that, they would not have allowed it. They would have been like, no, you have to get married, and throw a whole fit about tradition. People gonna talk, all that stuff. But because of what happened to me, they were a little bit more lenient, and they just said, yeah, okay. But it did take my dad about a month to really finalize, like, okay, fine, you can go. Like, and I don't know. Something about second gen too, like, we just still have a lot of respect. I say most of us still have a lot of respect for our parents, so we don't really like to disobey them and, just do our own things. For me, growing up, like, I was always listening to my parents. I never wanted to upset them. They weren't bad parents, but I will say that they were traditional, where, they could have been better without some of those beliefs and traditions. So yeah, going to this place that was safe for me, it meant a lot to me, and it was everything to me. And so, after I lived there for like 8 years, and Now I have moved to this place, and you can't really see much here, but I have moved to this place, and this place is definitely an upgrade, and it has now become my home, yeah, this is the place where my partner and I have moved into after officially getting married. We were already living together at the other place before we were married, and we had like all that 8 years to work things out, whatever. And so we are here now, and we're married. It feels the same, but this is a big step in our relationship and in our life, and in my healing journey as well, because letting go of that very first place that I was at was not easy. It was not easy to sit there and think about all of the things that this place has done for me, the places that made me feel safe, how I built all these memories with friends and people, and it was just a safe environment for me. Like, it was not easy to let go, and grieving that was not easy. Like, I didn't want to do it. I really wish that I could have just stayed there, maybe permanently, because it had a lot of meaning for me as a survivor. And the reason for that, okay, boss, the reason for that is because when you are a victim, or you are a survivor, or you have gone through hard things in life, for me, specifically as somebody who has experienced traumatic events or whatnot, we tend to hang on to things, okay? We hang on to things, people, like people, places, and things, okay? It will come in many various forms, but things and people and whatever just has more meaning for victims and survivors, because we struggled with having that safety, and so we go searching for that safety. And when we do find that safety, or when we do have that safety, then it's harder to let go for growth. And we have to understand that letting go means that there's room for growth, but it doesn't mean that it's not hard. All right, so other than places, there are people, okay? People, and this I've talked about before, but earlier on in my healing journey, or my journey, I don't think I was healing at all at earlier on in my journey, actually. Actually, I take that back, because my therapist did say that being angry and being in the black area, you know how I talk about black and white and gray area, being in the black area is actually part of healing as well. Like, you have to go through the black and white area in order to be able to come to the gray area. So yes, I was healing, even though it was just like negative. Okay. Yeah, I was I was very, very, I don't know, I guess you could say toxic. I was toxic, where I was very clingy onto my partners, and I could not, like, for the life of me, I could not be independent, okay, in solitude, and I did not practice self-love. Like, everything was me and my man, me and my man and me, like, it was never ever, I'm gonna do this by myself. Like, myself by myself, that was not in my vocabulary. So it's like that as well. When you have faced trauma, you will cling on to people, and you will be codependent on people. And you might see it in the most subtle form, or you might see it in the most toxic form. And I will talk about the subtle form, and then I will talk about the toxic form, okay? The subtle forms is like when you just see somebody who, as a couple, they always go everywhere together. Like, always, all the time. This person cannot travel alone, this person cannot run to Target alone, this person cannot come to your event alone. It always has to be both of them, or none of them, or you don't ever see it ever happening, because they're always together. That is a very subtle form of being codependent, because they feel safe around each other, and they need each other. In a way, I will say that it can become very, like, unhealthy, because then one or the other, like, it's just, you can't do things as an individual. Like, imagine if one of the person, God forbid, passes away. How is this person going to find themselves again and build through that to really be
independent?
Can, right? Because life happens, like things always happen. So I will say that if you are one of those people who you struggle to do things alone right now, that slowly work on yourself and build that independency and that being okay in solitude and traveling. Like, you don't actually even have to travel alone, but just going to the store alone, running errands alone, going to an event alone, like start small and then maybe you can go even bigger if you want. But I think that you should be able to do these small stuff alone. And I get it, okay, boss, I get it, because I used to be that person where I could not run to Target alone. I could not do anything alone, honestly. So I get why you feel the way that you do, but I promise you that when you start to work on yourself and you start to build that confidence that you do have what it takes to do it alone, and if anything, it actually feels very great to not have to wait on your partner, because your partner can be, lagging, or they just are just so slow sometimes. And so, yeah, you can start to do things and prioritize yourself. So, work on yourself and work on that independency so that you aren't codependent on another person. The more toxic form of being codependent is when somebody has provided you a safe space and they've done that for a great amount of period of time, or you just have experienced it and it has felt awesome, and then things start to shift, right? This person, basically a narcissist, has shifted to being very abusive, like, I don't know, verbally, mentally, emotionally, physically abusive. And they are manipulating you into believing that they do love you and they are hitting you, draining you, being abusive. But then because they have provided you this safe space, you think that it's just a phase, or it's just a moment, or they're not going to repeat it because you've had a conversation about it, or you just have hope that this person will change. And that's when you start to see in those people where they continue to stay because victims and survivors, they continue to stay because this perpetrator has once provided a safe space for them, and so that's why they continue to stay. And also they have, in a way, developed like a trauma bond as well. And I'm not going to go into trauma bonds and stuff, but yeah, so it gets toxic, and that is a more higher toxic form of being codependent on each other. But you do see it around, and you do see in your friends and peers and family coworkers. But yeah, if it is you, I just want you to know that I understand. I understand why you are so codependent on this person. But again, I do hope that you find the strength to see everything for what it is now and not what it was before, and to listen to those around you. Like, if more than one person that is in your life that you trust, that has been supportive for, like, towards you your whole life, if more than one person like that is telling you that this person's not good for you, please listen to them, because they just care for you, and it's in the best interest for you to leave this person. But I understand too if you are one of those that is in one of those kind of relationships. I want to talk about people as in not a romantic partner, but even people like a friend, okay? Because we all know and we all have been through this, where we were once close with a friend and then we had to, kind of cut the ties or set boundaries, and we're no longer like that anymore, right? So if you have a friend that once provided you that safe space, but they no longer provide you that safe space, and you've had to let them go, I just want to be here with you that I understand that it's still a grieving process and it's hard, because this person was once that safe space for you, and now you have to let them go because they are no longer providing that for you, and that's okay. But it does happen with friends as well. The next thing, the last thing, is things or items that we take in and we cherish, or we feel like has a lot of meaning for us as survivors or victims of trauma or hardships in our life. For me, when we talk about items, there was this one item that I could think of where I actually held on to it because it had a lot of meaning to me. And from the outside perspective, you can look at it and it just doesn't really make any sense, because you might think that there's like, you'll get what I'm saying when after I say it, and I'll explain to you. So in the beginning of my relationship with my now partner, I held a ring, okay? It was not a ring that belonged to my current partner, but it was a ring that belonged to the partner that helped me realize that something was wrong with me down there, and that maybe something had happened to me. And then that was when it opened the door to all of the trauma and all of the events that happened to me, all of my SA stuff that happened, right? So that person who gave me this ring, it meant a lot to me, even though I was no longer in a relationship with that person and I no longer felt romantic with that person. I held on to the ring because it had value to me, as this person was once somebody important in my life who supported me, who helped me realize, who was there for me. And so I held on to that ring because this person was the first person, you know? So, yeah, like I said, looking from the outsider, you're like, nah, she held on to that ring because she still had feelings for him. But if you look at it from like a victim or a survivor who has vulnerability in that kind of area, then you kind of understand. I hope you understand. Well, if even if you don't, me as a survivor, and if I was the person looking at this survivor, which is me, I would understand, because I get it, you know. So yeah, I held on to that ring, and it was hard. It was hard to come to the realization that this ring I had to let go of. This person who meant a lot to me, who, even though I didn't have a romantic relationship with anymore, that I had to let him go. Even that piece of him that was there for me through the biggest thing in my life, because we had crossed that line of that we were once romantic. So that's why we can't just ignore that piece as well. And so that's when I came to realization that like I had to let go that other piece of, I can't hold on to this just because he was the first person to help me through my childhood trauma journey stuff. I had to let him go, and it was really hard. I'm being completely honest, it was really hard to let go of that, because as a survivor, everything has such a deep meaning when they have held safe spaces for you. And that is why sometimes you get overly into that toxic phase because you don't want to let go. But you do, boss. You do have to let it go, and you do have to move on. And you do have to come to an acceptance that this is room for growth, that there will be more on the other side for you when you let these places or things or people go, because even though they were once a safe space for you, you will actually grow more, glow more, and improve more without having to hold on to things that are no longer serving you, okay? So yeah, boss, that's all I have to share with you guys. I just want to say that when it comes down to items, I get it. I get it why it's hard to let things go, but you do have to let it go, okay? I will see you guys next time. Thank you for listening and for understanding, and I hope that this has helped you. If you have struggled with anything, with people, places, or things, letting them go and how hard it is, I hope that you have a better understanding of why it's hard for you to let it go, or maybe you can understand your peers as why is it harder for them to let go. It's because people who have faced trauma, it's just harder for them. And yeah, I hope that you overcome it and that you do let go so that you can also grow, and there's more for you out there, okay? All right, boss, I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week. And as always, stay being the bad boss that you are. Bye.